I don't know how much of Proverbs we're going to do, but Proverbs is one of my favorite chapters of the Bible. Favorite books. I'm sorry, it's got 31 chapters, but it's one of my favorite books. There's a lot of favorites in the Bible, but this one is so rich in wisdom. And Solomon is given the credit, along with God, to have written Proverbs, but in actuality, it's mostly Solomon, and then there's a few others that have contributed to it, and I don't have the names of them, and I don't know if there's a way to find out the names of them. But anyway, I thought we would just go over Proverbs chapter 1 and see how far we go, and do what we normally do, where we take turns reading. The different versions, because I hope you enjoy doing that. I know I do, but if you don't enjoy doing that, let me know and we'll pick a version and we'll just do it all the time. But I like to hear how different ones interpret the Greek into English, and each individual version lots of times gives us little peeks into stuff that maybe another version didn't quite cover or imply. And I just think that's awesome. And I think it's awesome to go over the meanings of words. I didn't used to feel that way. I used to think that was boring. But there's words that I thought I knew the meanings of, and I found out there's more meanings there than I was aware of. And some of those other meanings add something to what we're trying to learn here. And there's so much wisdom. I know when we seek knowledge and we seek wisdom, it helps us to make better decisions about different things in life that we come across. And Proverbs is just full of godly, practical advice about many practical matters that you face in your everyday life, which is a good foundation to build your life off of, because it helps you to understand the standard of God, what his standards are. You could call them rules and regulations, although it's not going to make a difference in whether we get saved or not, because it's his love and belief in his love and what he did through his love, and how Jesus paid the price for our sins, that is the most important. But when we love God back, we want to show him our appreciation by behaving in ways and thinking in ways that he approves of. And this is just full of good common sense, as well as wisdom concerning, for instance, how to think properly, how to control our mouth, how to manage our finances, how to plan for the future, how to treat people correctly, how to deal with offenses, how to receive correction, how to keep from being foolish and to handle those who are foolish, how to be a good friend, how to behave as husbands and wives, and even how to have a good relationship between parents and children. And there's so much more in there. You can't go wrong by studying Proverbs and with the idea of what can I glean from this book that I can put into practice that will improve my life and the lives of others around me. And when you choose right, when you make right choices, you get blessed. When you make wrong choices, you are cursed. If you want a good life in spite of circumstances, because circumstances don't always look good, but if you handle them correctly, all things work together for good for them that love the Lord. So that is awesome. We're going to have Dave read from the King James Version, and Josie from the Living Bible, and I'm going to read from the Amplified. We may do a little bit more than just one at a time, but let's just start out with one verse at a time. Let's do verse 1 and see what we can get from that verse. Dave, would you start out, please?
Proverbs, chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel.
Okay. What's yours say, Josie?
These are the Proverbs of King Solomon of Israel, David's son.
The Proverbs, truths obscurely expressed, maxims and parables of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. All right, what can we get out of that one verse? Well, for one thing, it's telling us who the main writer is. And who is that?
King Solomon.
Yes, King Solomon. And who's he the son of?
David.
David. The king of Israel. What's a proverb?
Got me there.
Well, I looked it up just to make sure I worded it correctly. And a proverb is a traditional saying or phrase that expresses a perceived truth that often gives practical advice, and they're based on shared human experiences in the Bible that expresses general truth for the practical, godly. I can't read my writing. Anyway, basically, it includes truths that are hard to understand, but a lot of parables, like Jesus liked proverbs and parables and maxims and stuff like that, are so similar. It's a way of expressing, like for instance, parables aren't always about a true happening, but they are stories that express a truth in a way to make it easier for people to understand. Like Jesus was always giving parables, which go hand in hand or cousin to the Proverbs. Some of the ones that he told, and you'll recognize some of them. The Good Samaritan, or the sower, the prodigal son, the talents, the rich man and Lazarus, and the 10 virgins, and there's others. And what they do is they are a simple, usually short, fictitious. Just because they're in the Bible doesn't mean it's a real something that really happened. It's illustrating a principle that is true, and a moral or spiritual lesson or attitude. And it makes comparisons to make that more clear. And so let's go on and let's read verse 2 through, going ahead and read verse 2 through 5 this time, Dave, and we're going to find out why does the Bible teach in parables or proverbs or along that line? Why is it that they're taught? Chapter 1 and verses 2 through 5. No, make it 2 through 6.
To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings.
Okay, Josie, will you read the same ones?
He wrote to them to teach his people how to live, how to act in every circumstance, for he wanted them to be understanding, just, and fair in everything they did. I want to make the simple-minded wise, he said. I want to warn young men about some problems they will face. I want those already wise to become the wiser and become leaders by exploring the depths of meaning in these nuggets of truth.
Okay. That people may know skillful and godly wisdom and instruction, discern and comprehend the words of understanding and insight, receive instruction in wise dealings and the discipline of wise thoughtfulness, righteousness, justice, and integrity, that prudence or good management may be given to the simple, and knowledge, discretion, and discernment to the youth. The wise will also hear and increase in learning, and the person of understanding will acquire skill and attain to sound counsel, so that he may be able to steer his course rightly. That people may understand a proverb and a figure of speech, or an enigma with its interpretation, and the words of the wise and their dark sayings or riddles. Not dark there, not meaning evil, but that it's not a lot of the things that have been said that are considered wise are hard to understand, and so if they're not easy, they can be to understand. They can be considered dark sayings. Okay. Are there any comments anybody wants to make about what we've read so far? No. You know, there's another place in Scriptures in the New Testament where it talks about God giving us a sound mind. Well, when you have a sound mind and you are studying all these things that have been mentioned so far, you find that it's easier to make the right choice in different given situations. And so my mother had that kind of prudence that God gave her naturally. It was an extra common sense that helped her make decisions better than a lot of college students could make. It may not have been about going up in space or, you know, some of these complicated electronical type things like that, but in the normal living conditions of people, the different things they confront that they have to deal with. I thought my mother was the wisest person on earth, and of course that's not true. God is, but it seemed like no matter what happened, if you went to her, God had given her extra common sense, and she knew a good answer to the problem. And so Proverbs, studying it and studying what wise people have written in under the inspiration of God in Proverbs, can help us to make wise decisions. And I know sometimes we run into things and it's like, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know which is the right way to go. I don't know what to do. Well, you might try studying Proverbs, because there's a lot of wisdom there that might possibly help you decide the right way to go. Excuse me.
That
Go ahead.
that word equity is not used today, but equality is. For communism. You know, equity versus equality.
You want to expound on that a little bit?
Well, the equity is providing. Let me see. Equity is when resources are shared based on what each person needs. Inequality is everybody gets the same, whether they need it or don't, or need more or whatever. It's all the same. So it's like communism.
Yeah.
Equality and equity is in talking about here.
Right.
Well, I always thought it was equalness, being equal, and having things equal, like not being above one another.
I'm going to look it up real quick.
Like, yeah, Russia is acting like they're higher than the rest, and they want to kill the lower persons, maybe.
Well, I think God deals us the same way with equity, not equality.
Right. There is a difference. And it says, right, when I put in equity, here's what it said. The quality of being fair and impartial, equity of treatment, the value of, that's a financial equity. But let's see. The term equity refers to fairness and justice and is distinguished from equality, whereas equality means providing the same to all. So one has to do with treating everybody alike, but the other one has to do with being fair to everybody, if I'm understanding this correctly. Which that makes, God, He loves us equally, but He will always try treat us fairly. He's not going to say, well, you're rich, or you come from this side of town, so I'm going to treat you one way, and you come from that side of town, and I'm going to treat you in a different way. Or he's not going to say, because your skin color is different, I'm going to treat you different. No, he's not going to say that. So in some sense, they're similar, but they're different. And that's what I was having a hard time expressing. And that it says, and if you want to look it up some more, there's more expressions of it. But I think God is, in the Proverbs, he's dealing more, he's not really dealing financially, because there's another meaning that has to do with finances, but this is more in the treatment of people, how they're treated, and how they treat others.
Well, you could use equality as in God gave the gift of salvation for everyone.
That's right.
But equity would be for those who choose to do what God requires. And he can only bless those who do it his way.
Mm-hmm.
He can't bless those who are against him. So God is biased.
Mm-hmm.
God is racist.
He has standards.
Yeah,
that we have to fulfill in order to obtain his blessings. But it doesn't have anything to do with this salvation, because that has to do with believing and trusting in God and being sorry for the wrong choices that we make and so forth. Okay, well, I thought that was interesting. All right. So the question was, why are these proverbs taught? So that we can know right from wrong, and we can make proper judgments, and we can apply them to our lives in a proper way. That would be one answer. All right. Let's read verse 7, Dave, and we'll all three take a turn on verse 7.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Okay. I don't like the way this interpreter interpreted fear, but there's more than one kind of fear, and we're talking about a respectful fear. It's not false evident appearing as real. It's a respect. When it talks about fearing God, it says it right before that. It says the reverent and worshipful fear of the Lord is the beginning of the principle and the choice part of knowledge. So, and I didn't let Josie read what hers said.
How does a man become wise? The first step is to trust and reverence the Lord.
Okay.
Only fools refuse to be taught.
What'd you say for the last part?
Only fools refuse to be taught.
Right. And mine says the reverent and worshipful fear of the Lord is the beginning and the principle and choice part of knowledge, its starting point and its essence. But fools despise skillful and godly wisdom, instruction, and discipline. So, if I'm understanding, you jump in and correct me if you differ, as when we respect God, we respect his teaching, we respect his way, his suggestions, his like there's another part in the Bible that says you can choose between life or death. Choose life. He gives you the answer, but you have a choice between good or bad. But the beginning of making right choices is to have a respect from your maker, the one who made you in the first place. That's the beginning. That's the way I understand it. Anybody has something to add to my explanation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's read 8 and 9 together. Dave?
My son, hear the instruction of the father, and forsake not the law of the mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck.
Okay. Josie?
Listen to your father and mother. What you learn from them will stand you in good stead. It will gain you many honors.
Okay. My son, hear the instruction of your father. Reject not nor forsake the teaching of your mother, for they are a victor's chaplet or a garland of grace upon your head, and chains and pendants of gold worn by kings for your neck. So, when we follow proper instructions by godly parents, it gives us an inner beauty that's better than the adornment of fancy jewelry and all that. Yeah. When we hear their instructions and abide by them, when we have good parents that are trying to help us do that which is right, and we abide by them, it causes us to have a personality and a way of acting that gives honor to God and our parents and actually to ourselves. That's what I get out of it. All right.
Well, obviously it talks about both parents.
Yeah.
God is saying that the way he designed it is to have both parents as a family unit. Mm-hmm. You can't have it any other way.
Right.
The son learns from the father, and the daughter learns from the mother, and vice versa. You got to have two parents. And back then, the children were with the mother, and then the daughter continues with the mother after age 12, but the son after age 12 goes with his father to learn the business. But today, government is against family businesses and the family unit and everything that is normal. And so we're at a time where learning knowledge and instruction is more important today, because people are clueless today. Although there's a lot of cluelessness going on, and you wonder what's going on. Why are people acting crazy today? Well, they left the Bible on the table.
Yeah. To collect dust.
The Bible's not allowed in the schools, but the Quran is, and the Satanic Bible is allowed in the schools, but not the Bible.
Doesn't make sense, does it? You have anything to add to that, Josie? No? Okay. All right. Let's start with verse 10 and read through 16.
My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, Come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood.
Okay, Josie?
If young toughs tell you, come and join us, turn your back on them. We'll hide and rob and kill. They say, good or bad, we'll treat them all alike. And the loot, we'll get all kinds of stuff. Come on, throw in your lot with us. We'll split with you in equal shares. Don't do it, son. Stay far from men like that. For crime is their way of life and murder is their specialty.
Okay. And Amplified says, My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, Come with us and let us lie in wait to shed blood, let us ambush the innocent without cause and show that his piety is in vain. Let us swallow them up alive, as does Sheol, the place of the dead, and whole as those who go down into the pit of the dead. We shall find and take all kinds of precious goods when our victims are put out of the way. We shall fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot with us, they insist, and be a sworn brother and comrade. Let us all have one purse in common. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Restrain your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. Any comments?
That's equality.
Mm-hmm.
Let's treat everybody the same.
Mm-hmm. Everybody throw everything in the pot, and then you divide it up between all of you, whether all of them worked hard for the item that got put in the pot, whether they obtained it legally or not, or correctly or not. Yeah, that's pathetic. And they pounce on the innocent, don't they? All right, let's read 17. Let's read 17 through 23.
Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood, they look privily for their own lives. So are the ways of every one that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you.
Okay, Josie.
When a bird sees a trap being set, it stays away, but not these men. They trap themselves. They lay a booby trap for their own lives. Such is the fate of all who live by violence and murder. They will die a violent death. Wisdom shouts in the streets for a hearing, She calls out to the crowds along Main Street, and to the judges in their courts, and to everyone in all the land. You simpletons, she cries, how long will you go on being fools? How long will you scoff at wisdom and fight the facts? Come here and listen to me. I'll pour out the spirit of wisdom upon you and make you wise.
Okay. For in vain is the net spread in the sight of any bird. But when these men set a trap for others, they are lying in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who is greedy of gain. Such greed for plunder takes away the lives of its possessors. Wisdom cries aloud in the street. She raises her voice in the markets. She cries at the head of the noisy intersections, in the chief gathering places, at the entrance of the city gates she speaks. How long, O simple ones, open to evil, will you love being simple, and the scoffer delight in scoffing, and self-confident fools hate knowledge? If you will turn, repent, and give heed to my reproof, behold, I, wisdom, will pour out my spirit upon you. I will make my words known to you. All right, any comments on that?
Well, this is a good, the book, the Bible is, you could also look at it as, on the other side of the fence, hate speech. Because it's going against your other people that don't follow God. And when we talk about this, if they get their way, hate speech laws will be enforced here in America. They just had a big meeting in Davos, Switzerland. All the rich Antichrist elite met, and they're working hard. And pretty soon the Bible will be banned if they get their way. So I thank God that we can keep reading.
You notice, whether you're talking about Proverbs or parables or any of those, there's a lot of comparisons between the right way and the wrong way. And it brings out the results of each one. And that's part of what we've just read right there. All right, and now let's go to verse 24. And let's go on ahead and read 24 through 33.
Because I have called, and ye refused, I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel, and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock them. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as a desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel, they despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices.
For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil.
Okay, Josie.
I have called you so often, but still you won't come. I have pleaded, but all in vain. For you have spurned my counsel and reproof. Someday you'll be in trouble and I'll laugh. Mock me, will you? I'll mock you. When a storm of terror surrounds you, and when you are engulfed by anguish and distress, then I will not answer your cry for help. It will be too late. Though you search for me ever so anxiously, for you closed your eyes to the facts and did not choose to reverence and trust the Lord, and you turn your back on me, spurning my advice. That is why you must eat the bitter fruit of having your own way and experience the full terrors of the pathway you have chosen. For you turned away from me to death. Your own complacency will kill you. Fools, but all who listen to me shall live in peace and safety and unafraid.
Because I have called and you have refused to answer, have stretched out my hand and no man has heeded it, and you treated as nothing all my counsel, and would accept none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when the thing comes that shall cause you terror and panic. When your panic comes as a storm and desolation, and your calamity comes on as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then will they call upon me, wisdom, but I will not answer. They will seek me early and diligently, but they will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the reverent and worshipful fear of the Lord, would accept none of my counsel, and despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be satiated with their own devices. For the backsliding of the simple shall slay them, and the careless ease of self-confident fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkens to me, wisdom, and in a footnote says godly wisdom, shall dwell securely and in confident trust, and shall be quiet without fear or dread of evil. What are your comments? This is the last of the chapter, and after our comments, we'll take prayer requests.
Well, it just sounds like you have so much time in this life to do the right thing, and God gives you all the opportunity and the freedom to do it His way. But I guess there comes a time when you miss your appointment. You know, the timing of everything. You know, because in timing of everything, there's wisdom and knowledge and understanding. But if you refuse it all, you miss God's plan, and there's nothing available for you. You missed it.
That was a good summary.
You know, people refuse God, but when everything doesn't turn out the way they thought, it's too late to ask God for help now, because you still don't want God. You just want Him to get you out of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And He don't hear you.
Right.
He only hears you when you want to give up your own life for what He has, when you come to the end of yourself, that's when he hears you.
Right.
Not when you're in a bad situation.
You have any comments to add to that, Josie? God sees in our heart, doesn't he? He goes by what's in our heart. It's kind of like when you're dealing with your children and one recognizes that he disobeyed his mom, and the other one doesn't, or his dad, and the other one doesn't recognize that he disobeyed his parents, or even if he did, he doesn't care. So the one who recognized that he was wrong with a heartfelt "I'm sorry" has the right attitude. And God looks at our attitudes. He's really concerned with them. And just like Dave said, if you're only doing what you can think of and appearing to come around just to change the consequences of your wrongdoing, or in hopes of changing the consequences of your wrongdoing, you don't have the right heart attitude. So it's not going to be honored. There was an old song, and I forget who the famous singer was, but he made this song famous, something about I did it my way. And when my kids would insist upon doing things the wrong way, and then there's consequences to doing good. You get good consequences. When you do bad, you get bad consequences. Well, when they would make wrong choices and bad things started to happen, the first thought that came to my mind was, okay, you did it your way. How'd that work for you? You know, if we do things God's way, it works out well for us, because his way is the only true and right way. And things will work out fine in the end. Anyway, when we, take the child who's learning how to button his shirt for the first time, and he's not getting it right, and so you offer to help him, and he said, "No, I do it. It's a small beginning of that rebellious "I do it my way" type thing. He's not wanting to be shown the correct way to do it. He's wanting to do what he wants to do. Well, that's a very small and insignificant way to illustrate it, but when people want to do wrong things and have a right result, it's not going to happen. And sometimes they have to do things wrong a lot of times before they finally learn that. But if their intentions, if their heart set is not changed, just wanting to do right things in order to get right results is not enough. They have to have a heart after God and his ways. And so anyway, yeah, that's pretty good. Anyway, there's some really good nuggets in there. I'm sure we could talk longer on it if we wanted to, and dissect it better and study more word meanings and things like that. But it's already 8:35, and I try to let you go between 8:30 and 9 on Wednesday nights to be reasonable for each individual, especially those that live farther away than just across the parking lot or down the road. Anyway, I love Proverbs. Every time I read it, I usually get something that I didn't quite get before, or run across something that's like, wow, I didn't remember it saying that. That's awesome. It's just so full and so rich of good teaching. And the best way to understand cold is to also be presented with hot, and vice versa, where you learn by recognizing the right way and the wrong way, and kind of comparing them and the results of each of them, and it helps us to learn, doesn't it? And that's what Proverbs, parables, maxims, all that is meant to do, is to help us have a better understanding of God's way, of His ways, and why it's good to do things His way.